How to destroy democracy. Welcome in to my room. Much love, Trav here, and let's have a conversation. I'm not going to give you all the answers. I'm not going to speculate, but I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was very, very powerful and I wanted to destroy democracy and take over the world. There's definitely individuals out there, or perhaps small groups, that want to do this. So I'm thinking, how would they go about doing it? And I'll tell you how I would go about doing it. So you have a variety of options. Globalism is a tool, destruction of democracy is a tool, and how are you going to do these? Well, obviously propaganda helps because you want to sheeple the people along, you want them to go along with it. So we talked about this with Jack the Nationalist, how in order to spread globalism, you aren't going to say nationalism is evil. You're just going to synonymize nationalism with xenophobia, and you're going to synonymize xenophobia with racism, and you're going to say xenophobia is bad, racism is bad. So it happens indirectly. Now, I'm not going to get into this too in depth, but because I want to really talk about propaganda. So we're going to get into majority versus minority rights in a moment. But another thing that I would do is I would want to disarm the public, right? And initiate a police state, a militia, armed political, the army in the streets, basically. You got to take guns away from the people in order to do that. So it's an issue if everyone has guns, and you have to really change people's opinions about guns over a long period of time and disarm people. Right, that's something you would want to do, because if you are too oppressive, they can revolt. But maybe you just are a good leader and you can get them to vote you in. That would be another way. But it would be easier if you just get rid of democracy. So here's how I would get rid of democracy. And this is going to blow your mind right now. And we're going to do it similarly to making people anti-nationalist, globalist, by synonymizing nationalism. So what we're going to do is, the democracy is a majority rules. When the majority votes, then the society follows the majority, right? And this is clearly under attack, and we see this with how people react to Brexit, like problems with democracy. We need to be benevolent and stop people from voting because they're harming themselves, right? And for the most I've ever seen in my lifetime, the general public feels, aside from that 52%, is okay with giving up democracy to get what they want. And here's how we program our minds. And I can talk about this as a minority. What you do, you don't say majority is bad, majority is bad, majority is bad, because democracy depends on majority rule and respect for the majority. You say minority is good, minority is good, minority is good, minority is good. Minorities get special privileges, minorities get special powers, minorities get this, minorities get that. Majority needs to celebrate the minorities. We have minority celebration. And guess what happens over time? Majority feels guilty, majority feels bad, majority doesn't want rule. It's okay with the minority ruling, right? So I can say this as a minority, minorities in some cases do need special privileges from, being fucking exterminated when shit gets really bad, or just punished or marginalized. But, that is perhaps a feature or a bug of democracy, is the majority is going to rule. And if you're a minority, if you're an Asian man in the United States, you're a minority. And that means that, you can be in the ideological majority, and that's probably good. That's probably a good thing. But as a minority in a culture you're living, that kind of sucks. But as a feature of democracy, it just means you're not going to have the power, and that's probably okay. I don't feel like I should lead the West because I don't represent the West, right? It's white people is still the majority, and what's wrong with the majority leading us, right? So how do we destroy the majority over time? Well, another thing is flooding in borders. are destroying borders and flooding in and mixing all the people, so people lose a state of, lose nationalism, they lose pride in where they're from, they lose pride in being the majority, they lose pride in their history, and globalism wins. But I just wanted to share with you that idea, and you can tell me what you think, that in order to destroy democracy through propaganda, you would just keep hyping up minorities as much as possible until if minority is good, majority is bad, democracy is bad. Again, like xenophobia and racism are bad, and therefore nationalism is bad. You can't just go out and say it. You have to be sneaky with propaganda, allow people to make the connections for themselves. So those are just some ideas I'm playing with. How to destroy democracy. Tell me what you think. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you think this is some crazy shit, or how else, this is what I guess I want to know. First off, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe, but leave a comment. How else would you destroy democracy? How would you destroy democracy? If you're an enemy of freedom, you want to take over the world, leave a comment.